Hello and welcome to another episode of MSP Compliance Chronicle. And today we have a special guest, one of my favorite person all over the world, Seth Kylander. Hey Seth, how are you?
I'm good, Shy.
Crazy.
Thanks for having me today.
Um, I know you're awesome. It's always great to have a discussions with you when you're talking with professionals that handling a lot of compliance and security and facing so many things all over the angles of it. So I will be happy if you can present yourself that our audience can understand who you are.
Sure. So I run a company out of Denver, Colorado. It's called Kai Security Compliance Group. We focus primarily in industries with regulatory oversight. Our current primary vertical is private equity. We've been in business over 20 years. We focused on oil and gas, legal, and HIPAA for a while. And now we are dialing into SEC. Requires quite a bit of compliance knowledge and tools such as Kamanja. It allows us to kind of stay on that front edge of, I guess, multiple different government regulatory changes in the United States because the SEC does, in some ways, lead in certain areas. So.
Awesome. So also you are one of a company that's serving many companies, and you by yourself compliance right with some with the frameworks.
Yeah, so we're SOC 2. We're wrapping up our SOC 2 Type 2 actually right now. We are a smaller team. We're still currently under 10 employees. And so it's quite an achievement for us internally to make sure we finalize that process and then stay on top of that. So we also do quite a bit with ISO. We do actually have an ISO bridge, even though we haven't finished the full compliance level of that. Our
Yeah.
auditors have made sure that. So again, that's where Kamanja has really come in well for us to make sure that we are filling all those bases.
Great. And this is lead me to the topic that we're going to discuss today. And I would be more than happy if you can share with us your insight. Why it's so beneficial for you to be compliant while serving your clients, to be for them as a thought leader in that area. So as always, we created the short presentation that lead us through this discussion. So let's start. So Seth, once do your compliance, right? How it's helping your reputation and your asset protection in front of your clients and in general on your business.
So I'd like to start with saying, so specifically with our clientele, we have to maintain a certain level of compliance, such as the SOC 2, just to meet their expectations as well as those of their investors and other, I guess, associates that they will work with. So we really are going to be held to the fire continuously and forever to make sure that we are always meeting that. As far as our clients themselves, most of them falling under full SEC oversight are fully required to meet certain levels across that spectrum, especially within the different frameworks. And then also we like to take them another level to make sure that, or start preparing them for the changes, say, that are coming down the line when they may be required to meet the same level, say, SOC 2 or ISO themselves. So as far as how those processes and steps, assist, it's really quite beneficial when you're able to get everyone on the same page, moving through the same processes. It really helps alleviate any of those extra questions that can come up. So for 20 years, we've had clients in different industries. Not all the industries are stringent. Oil and gas has a different type of regulatory oversight, say, than HIPAA. But even though those may be different with the changes of everything that's going on in the world and security in general, working along these frameworks, whether it has a full accreditation or not, is paramount to making sure that everything is running seamlessly, that the clients understand that they're meeting a certain standard. And as we all know, compliance does not equal security, but it certainly helps build that foundation for us to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's from my opinion, it's also when you do it, it's like your clients feeling safe because you explain to them, once you do compliance, it's how do you handle their data. So when do you provide them some solution or services, there is do you think that there is a difference between if you were compliant before you had compliance and now after you compliance, you feel the difference in your clients how do they act for your services?
I mean, I think it's twofold. First of all, internally, just starting to get everything internally lined up. Any company going through, first of all, truly lining with a framework, right? Everyone can say, "Hey, I follow NIST," but there's no true accreditation on most levels of NIST. So that's all great, and getting your clients on the same level is great as well. But where are those holes? So as soon as you start truly falling into a level of compliance that will have audits or whatever else, it's amazing how much it ties in to every function thereafter inside your business. So processes change, being able to follow different procedures across the entire team. So
Yeah.
that starts from us internally, and then as we're using it more, and we're able to reflect that over to our clients and show them how certain things are working. I mean, in our world, our clients don't necessarily follow quite as much as we have to because we're doing those processes more often than not for them. But we still have to train them. We still have to show
Yeah.
them different aspects following certain regulations and preventing them from doing things they're not supposed to do. So all in all, yeah, it absolutely elevates every area of the operation, in my opinion. There's cost and there's time, but to bring that all together, I think it leads you to whatever business. Most businesses have very similar goals in the big picture, and
Yeah.
it definitely aligns with getting there. Especially trying to avoid any of those, should say, regulatory fines or whatever else that may come down the road, whether you're aware of them or not. We've reached an age where you can't stick your head in the sand anymore. You have to make sure that you're meeting these different criteria, and it's starting to branch out into more and more industries. So it's not just what we specifically focus on, or other industries who've had regulation, but let's say they've kind of been a gray area. They're really trying to crack down quite a bit more across everyone, even industries that don't yet have those rules. I have talk that's coming. So it's a good time to make sure that you're starting to step up and get into those frameworks and then prepare so at least you're closer to that final audit if you have to go that level.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Do you think also that compliance helping you for protecting your client assets? I mean, from a perspective of, I know compliance, it's control that you need to follow and etc. Do you actually feel, you again as a service provider, that it's helping you provide service in more? It's making the next level of your service.
I mean, yes, in many ways. I would say, again, compliance is not security,
Yeah.
but having the awareness of what's required, going through the steps, being part of that process, helping generate that process, reanalyzing that process, all of those things lead to a better security framework all around. Now, making sure that certain things in place are going to be required, but those extra steps often fall back to whoever's running that security team and what else is going on. But the amount of companies we've worked with, MSPs as well, that we've helped lean into a framework or start to prepare to be compliant on some level, they've all, ourselves included, it's amazing the shift, maybe I just say awareness for everyone involved, to be a little more hypersensitive of so many little different areas that even if you were kind of knowledgeable before, once you start doing it, it just starts to click and it becomes an automation, an action that everyone's going to follow through. So yeah, I'd say it does.
Perfect. That's awesome. So loyalty in trust building, right? I think it's all around it. Doesn't matter which business you do, where, it's everything. It's everything around it. So what are your thoughts about it?
As far as building trust with clients,
Yeah. Do you think
I mean, it's
again? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
well, from what we're doing, it's there's no question we have to meet the certain standards we are, just because it's the only way that certain doors are even opened any longer. Some of our clients working through raising their funds, working with investors, one of the first questions those investors are bringing in is, which of your vendors are fully ISO compliant or SOC 2 compliant. So in that sense, as far as opening doors and building trust in what we're doing, absolutely it has to be met. We have quite a few associates, friends that are working down the CMMC paths, very similar.
Yeah.
How do you step into a room and say, hey, we're going to focus on this for you and not be able to back it up if, like, say, CMMC or ISO or HIPAA all fall into that realm of, yeah, we do it, but how do you prove it, right? And I mean, everyone's aware of that, but it's amazing when you're in those rooms, the difference between, especially if you're going up against somebody else. We have unique relationships with our clients. We love our clients, but there are times that things are farmed out. Pricing is compared, like in any industry, MSP specifically. Being able to have that, to build that trust, is paramount. As far as the actual building trust itself, yeah, I believe it truly is an anchor for how we operate, how our clients see us.
Yeah, we see it many times with different partners that we have as well. That part of our onboarding process, it's like making sure that as an MSP you are doing compliance on your own and you understand the process and all of those things. And we see many times that once you do compliance on your own, even before you provide those services, it's really building a trust and loyalty among your customers, because again, you handle their data. Once you follow some framework, doesn't matter what it is, it's helping you to building a trust with them, because they say, oh, we know in some way that our data is secure. So because you're following 1, 2, 3, 4 frameworks, doesn't matter what it is. So yeah.
Well, I'll also add, beyond the trust, you did mention loyalty, and tools such as what Kamanja offers. There are multiple times we've stepped into an environment where, say, the previous provider had said that, hey, you're compliant or you're on this framework. And we'll go through and we'll do analysis. And sometimes they're fairly close. Sometimes they're not even close. But at the end of the day, there were no tools such as Kamanja in use. And as far as loyalty is concerned, the amount of reports and whatever we need to put together just on the SOC 2 side and the SEC side to make sure that our clients have everything needed in case there is a review or even audit for their company, we have to stay on top of all that. This is an area when you get into frameworks, whatever, that most people and most companies we've worked with, they have very basic systems in place to say monitor and double check.
Yeah.
If we're using a system like Kamanja and we're able to have our clients also participate in that or just be able to create those reports, if they're ever to look at another company that doesn't have something similar, or even to the level of what Kamanja offers, which many of them, in my opinion, don't, that loyalty is going to stand out, especially if they're required to meet these criteria. So not just, hey, we want to do it, but if they know how important it is, which certain industries should, we will build that loyalty just inherently by having a product like this.
Wow, it was amazing. Thank you for all the warming words. Yeah. Totally agree with you about it. Totally agree with you. And also from the ethical perspective, it's very important. It's very important in helping you again to build loyalty and trust, because it's all around this, right? So there is many. There are many MSP in the world. So how do you, as an MSP, building a trust and loyalty with your clients? Yeah, from my opinion, if you're asking me from what we see, it's like, security, how do you handle their data? This is one of the important things. So how do you can follow those security controls, follow some framework? It's not mean, again, that you're secure. Compliance is not security, but it can help you to building a trust and loyalty. Yeah.
Correct.
Cool. So do you think, again, as an MSP that already did compliance on your own, does it help you to be more efficiency and reduce your cost buying and operational when you do this?
So there's a couple different tiers to that. Efficiency wise, I'd say my team is definitely on board with the fact that as you get all of the different criteria aligned with whatever framework or compliance you're going to be working in, there's definitely an efficiency that builds and grows once everything's in place. Even getting everything in place can be helpful on the efficiency side. But there's no question. If even for companies and clients who don't require say, a level of compliance or oversight, just getting them properly onboarded into a framework, and I mean truly into a framework, and tracking it again with something like Kemanja, it's undeniable how it can help with the efficiency through every operation moving forward, your monthly tasks, and whatever else, because now you have a program in place. And ideally, that's what a lot of frameworks are, right? Creating those policies and whatnot. Cost reduction can always be a double-edged sword. I mean, some industries, if you're requiring compliance, then yeah, because some of these fines, especially in the financial world, are hundreds of millions. I mean, they can be outrageous. So being able to invest in properly put yourselves into a system that fully tracks and follows through on the compliance side is always going to save you money in the big picture. Unfortunately, as far as a lot of MSPs know, sometimes it's hard to show that value, because unless someone's actually been bitten by the side of fees or whatever else, they don't really know what they're saving. But yeah, absolutely, I'd say on both fronts for sure.
Yeah. Before I put my thought on it, John Paul sent the question: efficiency versus effectiveness. What do you think?
Well, I think they're two E words that mean different things. So JP is probably asking, effectiveness is only valuable if you're following through on everything that's involved, right? You're staying on top of the processes. You're staying on top of whether it's your monthly, say, milestones, annual milestones, or whatever else. Effectiveness is always to come down to how well you're using the system.
Yeah.
Efficiency is going to fall on the same thing, but obviously it's a different part of the process. You potentially could have half of the effectiveness in there and still become more efficient because you have some policies in place, you have some procedures in place. And again, the more you're using a system, the more you're using compliance tools and understanding what's required, the more you're inherently understanding and just moving through those motions. Effectiveness, ultimately, in my opinion, is up to all involved, whether it's your team on the technician side, security side, or the client side, because there's always going to be hiccups, and making sure you're working through those. So I hope that answers the question, but ideally, I'd say it can do both. One, I'd say efficiency from where we started would easily come into play more often than not. Effectiveness has a lot of variables.
Awesome. I think there is also another point that can be discussed here in the cost reduction and efficiency. For what we see, it's like also, I can't say cost reduction, but it can be another upsell, because once you do compliance, if you try to sell, I spoke about it many times when I'm talking with MSPs, because if you try to sell any security tool like EDR, XDR, MFA, doesn't matter what it is, and the clients don't understand the value of it. And when you do compliance, it's like, oh, this is part of the framework, so you need to do it. So for my opinion, for you, it's a cost reduction, but also, again, I don't say if it's a right to say it cost reduction, but it's helping you to have another revenue stream doing upsell on security tools because it's requested by the framework, and now it's mandatory that the client need to do. So,
sure.
What do you think about it?
Let me add to that. So, any tools that we can bring in as providers that truly support what we're trying to create, and those clients who truly, you have those relationships of respect, loyalty, where the client really looks at you and your firm as the trusted advisor. Any tools that you can use in the background that are going to help structure and I think everyone knows where I'm going with this, but at the end of the day, let me start over. There's quite a few different areas, right? We can all walk in and just sell our wares. If somebody's really in tune with being on a framework, I think being in a compliant level, most firms, once you reach the compliance level, they're going to say, what do we need? And something like this is going to back up every claim that you have. And I'm trying to work back to firms who say may not feel they need to go to the compliance side, but really understand the importance of the framework. So once you start tying into the framework side and you're bringing the client into that process, and tools like Kemanja also allow the clients to be involved, right? To keep an eye on things, to upload, and actually you can add to that, Shai. To upload different data, maintain. absolutely strengthens your foothold as far as it's not just sales, but it's making sure your clients have what they need. Our
Yeah.
company operates a little differently. We base our products on that we provide our solutions to our clients. We don't base it on price. We don't base everything on an MRR mindset. We make sure that our clients have the best tool for their needs. And I hope a lot of firms do that as well. Regardless of what your standpoint is, though, if you're going to go down this path, and as you're going down this path, this process absolutely lets you go to those next tiers to say, look, we used to be here. We used to be selling a product that was X price. We really need to move them into something else, like an MDR or maybe a SOC SIM or an MSSP. Really knocking up those fees for a lot of MSPs. If the client's on board, this absolutely will provide sorry, I'm losing my English here. This process will reinforce everything you're trying to do, and for you and for the client.
Yeah. I'm smiling because Martial is sending here on the chat many many good comments for you, said Martial. So yeah, he said don't be the weak link in the supply chain. Let me present it. It's cool. It's cool. Oh, I can see it. Martial.
Oh, nice.
So, don't be the weak link in the supply chain. Use a framework to gain more business and be resilient against the cyber attack. Oh, Martial, you don't know how much you're right. You don't know how much you're right and what says everything. Yes, go ahead.
No, and Martial's almost always right. So why are we doing?
Yes, he is.
I think the big thing that we'll talk as business owners and as participants in this space and the channel supporting our clients, there's always discussion of how compliance is not security. But the clients don't necessarily understand that, or they may not even need to truly have that separation. We have to explain it to them. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's very important to dial those separately, but it's also can be beneficial to go in and say, this is a package. And sometimes from our end to be able to tie those things together, as Martial was saying, being within a framework and selling it as resiliency against cyber attacks, I think can go together in those instances. Because at the end of the day, we all know it's very hard to get a lot of our clients to truly sit down at the table and understand everything we're trying to put across, all the concepts, all the different requirements they're going to have, all the suggestions we have, regardless if they want to understand it or not. So to be able to pull it together in a sense, like Martial's saying, I think is also very beneficial. So it can tie back into what you were talking about, not just cost reduction, but also enhancing sales.
Yeah, but again, you don't want to sell something, as you say, cheap, but again, that it's not meet their needs, and as you say, I top tools, and be the weak link on the supply chain, as Martial said. So yeah, I really agree with it, because people from time to time say, okay, I do cost reduction, I still charge the same, and I take something that is cost less, and then I can have more margin. But yeah, totally agree with you about it. And for my opinion, yeah, we see many times that for the efficiency side of compliance, if you manage it right and you put it on your processes of the company, it can be very efficiency to make decisions, and considering those decisions, not only technical decision, right? Because compliance, it's not only technical. There is a lot of risk that you can considering during a management decision and etc. that you can talk about it. So yeah, totally agree with all you said. Cool. Martial, any good comments to add, my friend?
Anything that allows us to reinforce what we're selling, what we're providing, and how we're solving solutions, in my opinion, is a win-win-win. So
absolutely. Cool. Okay. Regulatory landscapes in transition. What do you think?
Oh, this one's never ending, right? As far as
we talk about it many
I
times.
mean, there's been so many changes worldwide. Threat landscapes are infinitely expanding. AI is a whole new world. We obviously all can't trust local governments, whatever, to create all of the regulations, and nor should we necessarily want them to. However, there are regulations coming down the line, things that are going to be put in place, whether we agree with them or not. Again, I think extending into even other industries or business types. There are discussions of different types of MSPs versus MSSPs, liabilities coming through all of that. So when we're looking at the changes that are happening in the industry, some of them good. I mean, change is not necessarily always bad, but when we get into some of these discussions, I'd say, getting back on topic, being truly aligned and properly tracking a framework, as we're talking about today, or making sure that everyone is meeting the compliance that they need to be at, is going to be bar none one of the most important things that an advisor such as ourselves can do. Clients don't know where to start. Or example, on the SEC side, we don't do legal compliance. Our clients have either their own lawyers or they have external legal compliance firms just for the SEC. We're there to implement and structure a lot of the technical compliance. Some of that comes off the legal side, some of it comes off experience, saying you really need to have these things to match up to their expectations over here. Different compliance levels. We talk about something like HIPAA, which often is more of a gray area of different people interpreting different people reading and analyzing different areas of that policy set in different ways, whereas certain compliances are black and white. It's like, you have to do this, you have to make sure these certain expectations are met. As those regulations are spread out into other industries, it's going to become more and more important for everyone to be on some type of structure, and frameworks allow that.
Yeah. So as we know, there are two hot regulation, as you say right now, AI and the liability of right now of the SMB and the MSP. I was in the weekend in Cyprus, and before I went to sleep, I watched CNN, and just when I opened it, the first thing that it was on the CNN, it's like the White House going to regulate AI. It was on the weekend, in Sunday, if I remember it right. And the regulation will come to AI because, again, the AI, it's another topic that we can just talk about it, what full day. But the regulation is changing in terms of AI and ChatGPT and all of those generative AI. This is one regulation that are all the time changing. When you're adding new technology, when you're adding something that really going to change the world, it must be regulated, for my opinion. And also the liability, because right now, when you're serving your clients and your clients don't want to use security tools that secure their data, they don't want to pay for those tools. So who is liable right now if they got hacked? So where is the liability? On the one who provides the services or on the small medium business? This is a question. And again, also the regulation on it right now, we see that it's changed. The liability is going to be on the managed service providers. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, liability. So we all have different values that keep us moving, and then maybe awake at night, depending on where you fall and how things are changing around us. So liability right now is probably one of the biggest areas that I think we're all sitting in when it comes to the insurance side of things, making sure that we're being more proactive than reactive. But the other side of that too is ethics, right? So we talk about that a lot with compliance, and how does compliance help you necessarily align with ethics, whether you ignore ethics or not. There are some standards in place for different reasons, and how you come to the table with your ethics also can can affect some things. So everyone's going to be affected by all of this. They continuously are already affected by all this. I would say that it's more of our responsibility to make sure that we are getting ahead of it, right? We're not waiting for regulatory boards or whatever to start setting things our way. We are always seeing these changes, or we're currently seeing these changes that are exponential than what they were even just a couple of years ago. And by us being aware of this, by stepping into these areas of making sure that we're setting that I guess path for ourselves and for our clients is going to be paramount to a lot of companies' success.
Yeah.
And as a channel, as a
Absolutely.
team with MSPs and MSSPs. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Cool. So we're running to our second last topic. Strange business, resilience, and continuity. I think the one of the most the topic that I like on this it's the continuity because compliance is a journey, right? It's not something that you do and then it's gone. You all the time need to maintain it and improve it. Again, from your perspective, when you manage compliance, how do you feel on it?
Did you say that last sentence again? How do I feel? What?
How do you feel about it, about the resilience, continuity on your business? How this is facing you?
Well, I mean, resilience and continuity are resilience itself can be a strong word. I'm going to step back into real quick into the aspect of compliance and frameworks never changing. So it is not a set it and forget it type thing. I mean, one of the reasons that a lot of these organizations, such as following through on a SOC 2 audit, is ideally an annual process because you're following through and proving that you're keeping those systems in place and somebody's coming in and double checking all of those.
Yeah.
This framework does change. Other frameworks do change. They have additions. I know they just launched this major launch in this CSF. Staying on top of those can be important, but when it comes down to the compliance side, it's literally required. So again, we get back into the resilience of staying on top of it is extremely important. Sometimes it's legally required. Other times, again, if we're going to be proactive and make it our responsibility to make sure our clients are staying up on these best practices and everything else, then it is a full-time process. And again, we get back to tools such as Kamanja, which stay on top of those for us and let us know when changes are being made, or as annual changes, maybe even more often changes are made to those different frameworks that you're tracking and maybe comparing against each other. You're not forced to go out and sort that out yourself. It's unbelievable the amount of, just in CMMC, talking to some of our associates, amount of knowledge on just different policies within that system just blows my mind of how many different things there are to be known. And if you don't have something to follow, something that helps lead, you're going to be in the muck the whole way. So resilience-wise, for your clients, it's going to build resilience as far as everything we've talked about today. But as internally, staying on top of it is just, in my opinion, a requirement regardless. Regardless of where you fall on the spectrum of requiring full compliance or just trying to make sure you're staying on top of a full framework and keep your clients, where ideally, most of our opinion, they should be.
Yeah. And I think, compliance as a service provider, it's business continuity is one important thing because you need to provide all the time service to your client. So once you follow compliance framework, you have a plan. When something is happening, some use cases, it's guiding you for best practices, what you can do, how you can make sure that your service you provide all the time those services, and helping you a lot again to build a good business that all the time have continuity, and even there is some event that happen, you still provide the services to your client. And once you do it on your own, to duplicate it to your client, it's much more easier. Of course, you need to do modification to make sure that it's fit your client needs. But again, for my opinion, and as I see it many times, it's once that you know how to do it on your own, it will be more easy to duplicate it to your client. And again, it's making you as a company more have more continuity if something is happening.
I will tie that back into what JP asked earlier too about efficiency and effectiveness. I mean, ultimately that is continuity, right? I mean, we've throughout this whole conversation today, we've talked about, creating efficiency, creating processes, just inherent processes within your business for your clients. I mean, all these different frameworks, these different compliance levels, what else? That's ideally what they're designed for, right? Not just, hey, you got to meet these standards, you got to do these different things, but you're also creating, in essence, you're creating a program on the technical level. You're creating a program sometimes on the legal level, but you're also almost setting a mindset as well. So continuity is going to be, once you're putting all those pieces together and you truly get to that level of effectiveness across the board, continuity just follows. Efficiency is always going to be important. In my opinion, to JP's question, effectiveness is probably the ultimate goal beyond efficiency, because obviously it's only so valuable it's working, which is the ideal definition of effectiveness. And continuity is one of the most important things you have to make sure your client, you're offering for your client. So there be that. Resilience and continuity probably be the ties that pull everything together as far as end goals. And if I'm going to tie it back into you, sir, your product, because it allows for all that. It brings all that together.
Yeah. Do you think that once you follow the SOC 2, it's helping you to build a better continuity plan for your company?
I think you might be able to build a better one if it's. I'm sure you can always build a better one, but if anything, it definitely helps you take a look at what might exist. If there's already one in place, strengthen it and reevaluate. I mean, the benefit too of this whole process of going through these systems is coming back to the table and reevaluating and reassessing what's already there. I mean, I'd say almost every single one of our clients, we go back in and reevaluate, sit down with them regarding their continuity plans, disaster plans, whatever else, minimum at least once a year. So yeah, all of this pulls that together, because then you also have that information behind you backing decisions, and you can see trends if necessary, depending on how you're tracking different things and where your process falls into that.
Yeah. You're right, because if you need to test it every year, and during the year you made many changes in your company, in your organization, right? You're adding more tools, you're adding more services, so you need to test it, see if it's fit all of your use cases, and then make it improve. So you're right, all the time it's need to be improved and improve and improve and improve. This is also the way of compliance, a journey that never ends. You all the time analyze the risk and improve, analyze the risk and improve. So yeah.
Yep, I'd agree.
Awesome. Just to wrap up everything, what a good advice you can give to our MSP that listen to us right now, that if they want to do compliance on their own before they do it, why it's so important for them doing compliance on their own. And everyone say, oh, compliance, it's a headache. No one want to do this. No one want to talk about it. But you, as a service provider, did it amazing. I saw what you have done, and you did it amazing. So what you can say, what good advice you can give to the MSP that listen to us, why they should do it, and why how they improve them and help them.
This conversation comes up a lot with our peers, our groups that we all, I'm sure, few people on this call that we're aware of. It's not always just compliance, right? So we chose to basically go into a micro niche, and with that process requires the specific compliances that we are directly working with. It can be a big lift for a company. Like I said, we've been in business 24 years. And the last 5 years, we've dedicated everything we're doing to move in this new direction. Now, we're not alien to regulations and compliance, but it is a new set of rules and other things that we need to meet and match. So on that front, if someone's requiring to meet those types of regulations and those legal, staples that they have to, for whether it's themselves or their clients, it's just you're going to have to move. However, what I wanted to get into is all of the other companies out there that occasionally say touch on maybe a HIPAA client or occasionally touch on a financial client. There are liabilities that are growing without truly being aligned with what they may need. So sometimes, if you want advice, it's about finding another partner who that's where they specialize or that's what they do. The other side of it is being involved with those other frameworks. A lot of these frameworks align very closely. I mean, SOC 2 and ISO are what, within 4.5% of each other or whatever. They're very similar. They have differences. But when you come back to the HIPAA, the CMMC, CMMC has its branch. It's very similar to NIST. CSF, getting your company aligned in those areas is, I think I've said it a few times, it's going to be paramount, in my opinion, for just about everyone, regardless of where you fall on the true compliance side of things. Because everyone starts to touch. I mean, how many firms out there do we all know that maybe they don't specialize, but they have a HIPAA client over here, or they have another client over there where, oh yeah, we do everything we're supposed to do. We know enough. Well, some point that liability may catch up, and it's not going to be enough. And if you're able to and really start focusing on bringing a true level of framework and whatever else into everything you're doing for all your clients, then when you make that transition, or when you realize you have to take those extra steps for that client, sometimes it's a realization like, wow, we were not even close to where we're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It solidifies everything else that you're doing. And it also, in my opinion, probably really helps prevent some of those regulations and fines and stuff coming your way. Because I think we're going to start seeing those more and more. So in the big picture, my recommendation is everybody should be more aware of frameworks and be using a tool such as Kamanja to be building out those frameworks, tracking those frameworks. There are discussions of different frameworks. We have the trust mark. We have some other things coming through that are going to be set to start double checking these frameworks, these other things that we're doing. The sooner everyone gets involved with that, the better position you're going to be reliability wise, trust wise for your clients, everything else you're doing, whether they realize it or not. Because when something comes and hits the fan, you're say 90% of the way there, where so many firms haven't even started the process. You know, I know with CMMC, depending on where you're going, our associate Mark says 2-3 years minimum to get where they want to be. And if you haven't started, you're already 3 years behind. And I know it's a certain level, but at the end of the day, that is a certain focus. So if you also hope to go into an industry and you want to focus on something that either has current regulation or has a definite legal compliance attribute or a standard with it, don't wait. You got to start now. And sometimes the best place is against all your clients, even with a generic framework, because it gets you in that process, gets you moving, it gets everyone thinking about it. You start doing it internally. It is a change of again, we go back to efficiency and effectiveness. You start with yourself and you build it out, and I can't see how it would hurt, is my point. And we've done it. Interesting process. It never changes. So many firms, I think, have blown it off. And I don't know how safe that is anymore for quite a few people in this industry, because they're reaching into areas that they don't realize are changing, and they could get bitten pretty hard.
Yeah. Wow. It was a great session, Seth. It was really great one. A lot of good info. Thank to everyone to listen to us. But I want to wrap up with last thing. What Martial said here in the chat. It's one, I think, if you considering if doing it or not doing it, but Martial said one important thing about cyber insurance. So compliance and insurance, we know that cyber insurance and compliance are very connected to each other. So once you're following the framework such as CIS, CSF, and etc., it can help you a lot with the insurance and even make it getting you a better price for you and for your clients. I know it because we're working right now on something very unique that we're going to release soon together with the great company that all of you knows. I can't share so much right now, but Martial, good insight. It's very important for everyone.
We could probably spend the next 10-15 minutes just talking about that. I mean, that's a wonderful point.
Yeah.
Cyber insurance has been one of the largest topics for the last 2 years at least across all the different conferences, different groups, different companies trying to pull their own insurance solutions in. The other side of, I'm going down the technical definition in a sense of as with compliance. But when we come down to how to resell, how to engage with your clients, how to make sure you're putting in the proper tools or upselling, if that's just what the focus is, the cyber insurance realm is going to be hands down one of the easiest ways to do that. And
Yeah.
being on these frameworks, being able to go back to the insurance company for your client. But here's the big kicker, especially for yourself,
Yeah.
is going to be, it's just required if you want to make those steps. I will boast and say that every year for the last 5 years, our company has been able to nearly double our cyber insurance policy.
Yeah.
I know a lot of firms are struggling out there about how to get more insurance. Are they able to sustain even the level they're at? Are they being dropped? Are they losing, their full or whatever it is in the cyber realm?
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we're told every year that we're able to do that by the underwriters is we take the time, we literally take a day. We sit down with all of our SOC 2 processes. We sit down with all of our philosophy, everything we do as a business, and we almost always tie it back to our focus on frameworks and compliance.
Yeah.
Specifically, when we put those, when we're going out for that insurance, and almost every time it comes back with just, gold stars across the board. So internally as an industry, if you're worried about that side of things, because cyber insurance is so important, it's going to be very important for each of you and each company out there to do this. But same with your clients. The clients, we still have clients ask, well, do we really need cyber insurance? Well,
Yeah.
we have one the other day, just finished $1 billion fund, and they don't want cyber insurance. We're like, guys, we don't carry that for you. We'll do some things. But yes, and so we pull in some of these vendors that we all know. That's DataStream is one that can, not trying to give a shout out to necessarily anyone, except for you, Shai. But, they can come in and help with that. But to Marcial's point, it is actually something that you can absolutely use in your toolbox to not only build for yourself, help step away from some of that liability, but truly step in for your clients on an ethical, liability, and sales front to continue building that relationship, trust, and everything else. So, I mean, back to your question about recommendations or advice. If anyone's asking why should I even worry about this today, or we've kind of dabbled in it, this would easily be one of the number one ways or reasons to just start doing it, because that is an industry that's changing a lot of what we do regardless. It's still ultimately the Wild West. Companies are pulling out left and right. Clients aren't being covered the way they used to be. As MSPs and MSSPs, we absolutely are not being covered the way we used to be. And I will tell you from experience in working with these companies directly over the last 10 years, being on these systems works and it helps. And you have to stand by it though. You have to be ready for that audit if they want to come back and audit you. Same with your clients. Some of them being audited just for the insurance side. They don't have to be in compliance. Companies will come back and say, well, do you have to do this? And they'll come in and do their own assessment on your client. And if you have all that lined up, you're putting them in a place to win. So there's your sales.
Yeah. Wow. It was a great session, Seth. Really great. I really enjoyed. Hope you are.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure, Shai.
Yeah. So looking forward to see you next week in Vegas. I hope I'm not going to lose my all of my money there on the casino. I trust you to keep me safe.
We'll get you over a table if you want. Sure.
you will put me on the red. So yeah. Joking. So it was a really great session. Thank you very much for being a guest here. I think many people will enjoy and learn a lot from you. You bring for me many things that I didn't know. Even we spoke almost daily. So
right.
Amazing. Thank you very much for this session, and see you next week. And thank for everyone that listened to us. It was very, very good. Thanks to Marcial, my friend. I missed you. Thanks for the comment. Henry, all and everyone that was there. And thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.